Greetings everyone, this is Lodrik and this is a game War on the Pacific Admirals Edition. This is a match against Jochen and today we will check the last day of the year 1941. So means this 31st December 1941. Today I will talk a little more or maybe explain more or show more. I also use the tracker software. Show some statistics about consumption of fuel, resources, supplies, advance in R&D and production. Everything what only a Japanese player must really care. Allied player normally have only to transport fuel and supplies to the areas where he need it. And he cannot change every production, boost it, stop it, anything of this. So America's player is simply more easy from a complex level, but the Allies have more units to move around, a bigger map, more bases. So it is different. Okay, this is my second carrier fleet formation. And Jochen maybe make some suicide attack or try to run with his cargo ship in my fleet, and I think only maybe slow it down, because the carrier fleet is automatically always trying to escape and avoid the attack. Depending on maybe on how you set up your carrier fleet, but it make no sense to let the carrier task force have a surface engagement, so you always try to escape. And I don't know if Jochen did this on purpose or it was like it is something only like fate. So he was able to bring a light cargo ship into the same hex like my carrier fleet, and then he saw my formation here. It's not really a big deal for me. It only explains why no one attacked, because the cargo ship of course won't escape, we have nothing, and the task force commander say highest priority is escaping, even if this light cargo ship have of course no threat. So it make not really sense. Normally of course a heavy cruiser can engage this cargo ship and kill it, but the game mechanics are maybe limited here in this way. So this is my rowboat from Midway. It had maybe not the first, the second submarine with heavy damage. The first was near to Rangoon, but I was able to bring it to a port where it can rest and repair slowly, and waiting for the capturing of Singapore. This is this other rowboat. This was heavily damaged in Midway, and it's tried to survive this journey back to a Japanese base. So far it was successful, but today was the first time the flotation damage was not more under control. This is my heavy cruiser formation next to Ceylon. I try to pick up some cargo between Rangoon and Ceylon, or Calcutta, Rangoon, Ceylon, this triangle, but I find here only a light cargo ship, so this is of course nothing worth it, but at least I can create some damage and maybe get the experience point for this. I don't know. If each cargo ship is 1 experience point, then I would do it always, but I'm not so sure for this. So this is my just encountered carrier task force, source of Java. Jochen split up his cargo ships, and I can now pick them up one by one. Some players, they don't allow this. I think Dojo also told me this. It's not allowed, I think, to go less than 2 ships in a task force if you split up, something like this. Because there are some game mechanics, I think it's the game simply cannot balance very well what ship gets attacked. And I think every air wing only can pick one target. So if you have now 10 small ships, but I have only 4 air wings on my carriers, then I can only attack 4 ships. But normally, of course, I would say, okay, every ship need only 3 dive bombers. So I have enough airplanes, but not enough air wings. But I would normally say, yeah, it's a game. Everyone can do this. I have not really a big problem to burst this kind of task forces. This was I try here something, but not with success. I had some scout information that some units are moving from Bataan to Clarkfield. At least it looks like for me. Sometimes the graphic is not the best, and I thought that maybe I can attack them on the move order and maybe damage them, but looks like this attempt was not successful. Simply the terrain and maybe the fort level is too high, and if the unit's not moving, then of course it's not really likely to damage these units. And even if I hit it now a little, make no big difference. But I also get a good recon information from this, so I at least I know how much units are in Bataan. But Bataan is normally very hard to attack from seaside. It's impossible. There's a very big. I think the biggest minefield of the map is here in Bataan. And here are some Catalinas. Jochen did again some surprise strike. He moved in his Catalinas to Clarkfield and make now a torpedo attack on my cargo ship. Because before I attack always the airfield and the airfield was damaged, and I simply was not counting in that Jochen try something very risky like this. So if I maybe attack this turn again the airfield, and maybe his Catalinas are now damaged on the ground. So he risked this. This is a very risky move of him. And normally I had some fighters, and I cover normally always base here in the north with my fighters. But I simply more or less forgot that I unloading now in this hex my troops, and no, there's no air cover. So it's of course my tactical mistake that I don't make air cover, even if it's very unlikely that what just happened can happen still. It is always I think there's many books about this. A good general more or less must always know what the enemy can do, not always think what he will do. You must first more or less check the situation, of course based on your intelligence, and then you must always check what is possible for the enemy. Even if you don't believe he will do it, you must still at least check it, and then better be prepared, because better prepared than not say sorry. And now in this day, today I must say sorry to my troop transport ship, because it's of course a Mark 13 air torpedo with very low explosion chance, but still it looks like at least 50%. I have the feeling that it is more 50% hit chance and explosion, and not only 10 or 20%. Yeah. So a lucky day for Jochen. He hit a good troop transport ship. I can only say that I lost no units because I was already the second day here, not the first day. And also, this must be how to say, there was no detection on my ships. Because there was no detection on my ships, I don't really fear that there is an airstrike. Because without detection, normally there is no airplane. So he must move in these airplanes and have more or less hope that he immediately find the target. But yeah, so Jochen risked everything, and today he was successful. And next time I must play it really more safe maybe. And I mean, I did this to 90%. To 90%, every loading and unloading of my troop ships, I always have air cover. And often I already intercepted a lot of bombers. Like before the turns, I always intercepted these Dutch airframes. But today, the Americans were successful. Maybe another day I will strike back. And the rest is here only Chinese bombardment. Usually stuff. Nothing special. Sometimes with success. Often only to slow down. And again, many people don't realize this. Speed and time is often much more critical than really damage. If I can outmaneuver in China the Chinese forces, I win much more than with pure damage. An air force can normally not win the war, but it can open the door that the army can move in and then kick out all the Chinese bandits here. So Jochen bring here reinforcements to the source of Changsha. He running down this small road, and I try only to slow down. I mean, this is of course the minimum damage, but at least it's damage, and normally it will force the unit to change back to the combat mode and reduce the walking speed per day. Especially effective normally on highways more in open terrain. So normally, and here is my troop transport ship go down, but luckily it was empty. There was, I think, only very few supplies, 200-300 supplies. So it's really only the ship I lose in this case. It's a good troop transport ship. I think roughly 18 points. So it's one of the better one. Fast and capacity. But my losses on troop transport ships was up to now very light, so I really only suffer high losses on destroyers compared to the dojo game. I think in dojo game I lost more troop transport ships and more cargo ships. So in this game I was able better to protect my units, and this is the most important. I mean, an empty cargo ship or troop transport ship is at the end an empty ship, and there, even for Japan, I can produce at least some per month. and enough for per year. So I can lose per week one cargo ship, one tanker, something like this. This is, I think, acceptable. But if there's some units on the ship, this is then more dangerous and more costly. I think here's this is a tanker fleet, I think just returning, just empty. Also this tanker is now empty. We have again a Catalina, and again from 2 Catalinas there's a torpedo hit. So very lucky or skillful, you can see it like this. This tanker, I would say, I don't care at all. This is the smallest tanker the Japanese have. It's a 2-point tanker. I think they can transport 1,200, 1,500 fuel, and they're empty. So this kind of ships, I would always say, take it. If this is what you want to kill, then kill it. Here's a second good troop transport ship. This time I was lucky, because this time we have no explosion. I would normally expect this much more often, but yeah. It's luckily at least one car of my troop transport was saved by American technology. Thank you, America. And only to maybe some don't know this, but a Catalina can transport 2 torpedoes. So every attack run of a Catalina is with 2 torpedoes. What I not know is if the game simply say if 1 torpedo hit, also the second automatically hit, and then also the damage is always doubled, or if every torpedo is really calculated independently. This I'm not so sure. It's very yeah. I think they are independently, because just now I also had only 1 torpedo hit, but 2 Catalinas. Each Catalina have 2 torpedoes, so normally there are 4 torpedoes. So I hope it is really like this. Here again, these are I don't know. They have other paintings, so I don't know if these are now American army Catalinas. I'm not so sure about this. But they transport the 300 kilo bombs here. 300 kilo bomb is of course already something, can damage, and one of my destroyers have a bomb pit. Luckily it really looks like nothing critical, so this destroyer can handle this kind of damage. These are the Dutch long range patrol boat. They also carry 300 kilogram bomb, but they have less skills, luckily. I don't want to lose here the next line cruiser. But this is the same situation, similar to the Philippines. I was a little slow to bring here the Air Force. I used Georgetown already, because I just finished the repair of Georgetown. The port was damaged from bombardment before. So I bring engineers here, but my aviation support not arrived. I was a little slow. I think I forgot it. I can normally bring some aviation support already 2-3 turns ago. Then I can bring some fighters here, because normally the rule must be, once a player activate a port, and this port is in range of enemy airplanes, you must have at least a small group. Even a small group of fighters is enough to often, simply like this, to stop this. If I had only 3 zeros, I would have maybe at least killed half of this Catalinas maybe, or force them to return. But without any air cover, these Catalinas can now attack what they want. For some reason, these Catalinas choose to attack my minesweepers, 1-point ships. So similar to the tanker, I would say, if you have nothing better to do, then do it. But also, it shows that 3 Catalinas can kill 2 ships. That is very high efficiency, I would say. It also let me know or remind me that 1 Catalina can carry 1 ton of bombs. It's not bad for a Catalina. But a Catalina can transport 2 torpedoes, and one torpedo is normally like 900 kilo or 1 ton. So, yeah. And this is a Dutch 4 times 300. So this is a 1200 kilogram bomb load. Now it's my Counter-Strike. But this is now all small stuff. And here again, this is one dive bomber air wing. So far I know, the game don't allow or cannot split a wing for attack. So one air wing can always attack one task force per day. But this task force is only one ship. Of course, it's an overkill. I don't need 18 dive bombers for one light cargo ship, but the game simply cannot split it. No, the player can always split. This is maybe possible. The player can split the task force before. Then I had now 3 times 6 dive bombers. This is good if you have many small task forces like here now. It's a handicap if you want to attack a strong opponent or enemy strong task force, because then you don't can make sure that your attack or strike is very powerful. Then it's more up to the commander how he mix up his forces. So there is an option normally to do it, but so far I never did this, because it's also very unlikely that there are 5, 6, 7 task forces in range of a carrier. Can happen, but unlikely. And at least the task force commander will choose which task force is the most important and attack it. So if there's one strong task force but 6 or 7 small one, normally if the task force commander is skillful, he will say, I attack the strong one and not the small one. But if every task force is here now one ship, then there's no choice, and there's only take whatever you want. So I take now here whatever I want, but they're all small. Four light cargo ships, maybe each is 2 points, so I just barely maybe. Yeah, and I sunk one other cargo ship near to Ceylon, so 5 cargo ships I killed. But I lost 2 minesweepers, 1 small tanker, and 1 good troop transport ship. Yeah, but there are more worse days. And something else just happened. So maybe 1 more cargo ship go down. At the end, this was of course a more successful day maybe for Jochen. Let's see what happened in the land force now. Yeah, this was I was able that last time to be successful, but today I think I have not enough. I risk this here maybe too much. I can destroy the fort level, so I can reduce this fort level because I'm still on row. I mean, purely power, I'm still higher. But I was not able to bring this power on the field, so yeah. This is why I have here now a failed attack. I lost nearly nothing, but all my units are now disabled, so they are only now ready for defense, but not more ready for active duty. Yeah. At least I can take now Luoyang without a fight. Okay. And Luoyang have some industry, and I take it intact. So for the economy, this was maybe a success. But I failed twice. The Philippines is really a very risky move, and I would say, okay, this was his gambling and good. Where I failed was normally Georgetown. Georgetown, I think, is really a more my real mistake, because I had normally to, at least guess that he tries this maybe one day, because there are still some Dutch air bases near. Okay, let's check first the intelligence report, because it's what I always do. So we have here no air loss for the Allies, and I have 6 operational losses, and they are mainly related to and 1 flag losses. So 3 Nel bombers lost, I think, over Bataan. This not successful airstrike, and 2 of my torpedo bombers from the carrier operated. I think they have landing accidents. This is always possible. A little high, especially because these are the good torpedo bombers, and the good torpedo bombers have normally good pilots. And the rest is 1 scout airplane, operational loss. So, but at the end, out of the 7 airframes, I lost 2 pilots only, and 1 is the Nel bomber for sure, and the other one I am not more so sure. We can check it soon. Ship sunk was now last turn. So this troop transport ship was a really good one, I must say so. It's a fast one and have a lot of troop capacity, so this is really the best what the Japanese can more or less build. Very long range, and and only 1 torpedo hit. It is like it is. Then we have here this 6. And this is my small tanker, so 2 points. So 1,250 capacity, short range. Nothing I would really cry for. So I kill here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cargo ships, and I lost 2 of my AMCs. Yeah, but AMCs, this is 1-point ships. Later in the game, you have so many of these 1-point ships, and they are really not important. So today, the only thing what matters is normally my troop transport ship, especially because it's a Mark 13, and so early in the war. I don't know more. I think the first upgrade for the torpedoes is June or August 42. And then I think it's the 1st of January 43 is the next upgrade. And I think the torpedo reliability is to up to 90%, like every torpedo. I think is first at August 43. I think at that point every torpedoes are equal. At least it's a reliability. Good, and the pilot. So if we can, I don't know if I can find out which other pilot gets killed. Or sometimes you can see it, sometimes, but often not. So here, this is this Nel bomber missing. Reported killed. So 1 Nel bomber for sure. And the rest I don't see. Pilot killed at landing accident. So my scout, my recon pilot gets killed. And I can say recon pilots are, I think, the cheapest to replace. Recon pilots are nothing really hard to train. Maybe army land bombers are also easy to train, because they must also learn only 1 skill, similar to this recon. But the most valuable or most complicated and expensive to train are normally torpedo bombers, carrier based and land based, because they always must learn 2, even 3 skills. So only 1 pilot I miss. I really care. The rest is simply resources for the empire and for the Great War here. The Great War of justice and peace in Asia. So then let's see next. I will make a short break and then I talk about the situation and tell a little more about industry and supply. So back to the game. Oh, good. I checked the intelligence report and maybe first roughly the situation. I can first roughly go over the situation in China, but there's no big change because these are the daily turns. I only can say that there's still a lot of going on in maneuver warfare. We not really had a important first class battle. I try to bring in here 2 strike forces, one from Cathay running in this direction and the other from Xinjiang, North, Nanyang, and then on Xi'an, and try to trap here the forces or battle the forces. Maybe trap them, maybe not. But both of the Chinese counter or opposite forces. This is one force of 150,000 guys, and he is also roughly 150,000. They both choose to retreat into these mountain areas. It makes sense because, of course, in open field the Japanese are always stronger, so long the Japanese have supplies. If they're running out of supplies, if the war is maybe 44, maybe Japan simply can afford more of the supplies. But now in this year, I think in 41, 42, there's enough supplies at least. So the Chinese are maybe limited to defense. So Jochen tried to escape here, this mountain pass, and maybe, I don't know, somewhere here he tried to maybe hold. And here's a similar situation. I normally don't go for Yan'an, but it looks like that Jochen also give up Yan'an and he pull everything out of Yan'an back to Xi'an. So here are normally also maybe 20-30,000 guys, and I think he calls them all back. He want everything here at Xi'an because Yan'an is hard to defend. It have resources, so I will take Yan'an, but first it's a secondary objective for me, and it have no highway connection. So every task force or army I will send there need compared to other objects too long time, and it's also there's no improvement or additional benefit for me. I can take the base, take the resources, and that's all. So, but I will not cut the supply line or force Jochen to act for this. Because of the situation, I tried to normally battle here, but Jochen ran away, and he's running still away. So I must always, like every player and every general, must always adjust to the situation. So I had an original plan. I had here the hope that I can make here in this open field with support of my air force, crash this Chinese and then drive them back, similar to what happened with Dojo maybe. But in this case, now they're running already, so it's hard to catch up. I still will create now out of these 2 forces or army groups. I will create one new. I will normally with the Japanese, because of the supply situation, I always like to stick with the highways. I normally don't want to walk the small ways. Maybe Chinese forces can do this because they have only infantry. I like to push here now in the highway, and I try to outrun the retreating Chinese forces here in these mountains and arrive here before. The question is, this hex is empty so far I know, but I'm not so sure about these 2 hexes. Maybe in this hexes, because it makes sense because it's a link, Here are for sure Chinese forces. So I must take this hex and be the owner of the hex before these armies arrive. Once I am the owner of the hex and the Chinese enter the hex, they cannot go back. They, so far I know, I am the first person enter the hex is the owner of the hex. And if you want to change the ownership, you must kick out this original owner. So if here are Chinese forces, I must walk in, kick out the Chinese, then I am the owner of the hex. Then if the other Chinese coming, they must kick me out of the hex. Or they can only walk the way back they come from. Every other way is normally blocked because the other person is the owner. So we will see how this is normally this center strategy plan. It's nothing really special, but it is normally a logistic question. Bring in fast enough the forces and keep an eye on everything around and make sure that there's nothing happened. Because I cannot bring all the forces here now up, because it's still possible that Jochen may come in 1 week back and then try to take Nanyang and cut me off. And this is a highway. And this will be, of course, at the end, the trouble. So I must keep an eye on these forces and what they are doing. And here in the north, there's normally not much more. I drive, this is a Mongolian army. Not so strong, but strong enough to normally take everything here in this Chinese Mongolia area. But like I said, it's only to take this normally, Vasco have nothing. But Urumqi, this is light industry, refinery and oil. This have some value for me. Army have no value. Here is no value. Here are some resources, but not really much. So this is normally all of the Mongolia. It's normally only victory points, and the only industry area is Urumqi, with the oil, refineries, and light industry and resources. So I can get here everything. So this is really a supply hub. It's not nothing. It's nothing big, but it will produce supplies and will keep all my garrison forces in Mongolia well supplied, that I don't must ship anything else here. The really heavy industry stuff is then here again. Here are the resources I need for my heavy industry, and here is the oil and refineries I need to feed my heavy industry in China. In the dojo game I was very unlucky and I lost, all of Lenzhou was lost, but I was able to take Xining. But of course, if I can choose, I would say it'd be better give me Lenzhou before I take this. But 141 resources are also value, so it is not that it's meaningless, but this is meaningless. Here are some resources. Xi'an itself is more, it's important because it's logistic. It's a must-have. Without Xi'an, I cannot control the air here. And with Xi'an, I can always bombard everything in Sichuan. So it is really the most important city, I would say, for the Japanese to take early on. The center is normally inactive so far, and I don't really focus too much on it. I am only forced to bring in maybe some smaller forces here down the road to support and this unit. So I'm running here some forces down. I try to reinforce these forces. Maybe I must bring some other forces here down and reinforce here. Mainly only to block these Chinese forces and keeps the status quo. That not that the Chinese trying to force me out of my positions. Yeah. So long the Chinese forces are here, I cannot build a focus point, so I am a little... I have here now 1, 2, 3 army forces I must reinforce. And this is already, at least in the favor of China, I would say. The Japanese better operate strong together. The Chinese, they can more be split up. Yeah. Of course, the biggest advantage is that I control the sky, so I can always damage everything here and slow down. Yeah. This is normally China. first roughly, and there is not much happening. We can only do... The Manchukuo is already completely empty, so out of Manchukuo I will not get anything more in the near future. But this I only did on my own, because this is my play style. I really call everything in Mukden. So I have here now, I have here 5,866 attack value. These are all army forces in all Manchukuo, are not related to garrison request. All other forces you can see here have two duties. They have a garrison duty, like this force, or they are hard locked. So they are garrisons, but static garrisons, so I cannot move them. So I only have this. Everything what is flexible, not garrison, is in Mukden, and everything else is garrison or static. So I also have only two airports here. I have Port or Arthur, because here is this unit have aviation support, and this is cannot move, so I can operate here some airplanes with free maintenance anyway. So I keep here 2 fighter wings with each 12. So this is what I can get here for free maintenance, more or less. So the airplanes are always in top conditions, and I have normally no maintenance issues and with operational losses and so on. And these are also hard locked airplanes. They cannot leave Manchukuo, not now at least, and I only use them for training. And it's always good if you have one elite pilot. Normally I think you must have experience at least over 70, and I think if it's over 80 you get more bonus, something like this. So, but at least we have one pilot with good skills, and this will more or less give a bonus for this trainee pilots. There's always a check if the pilot gets a skill bonus or experience bonus. So, and if you have a experienced veteran in your air wing, then he will increase this chance to get this improvement. But of course, you can always get every day only maximum 1 point more. And you can only train up to 70. 70 experience, I think every skill and experience can only be maximum 70 by training. Everything above this must be by combat, real experience. And I think most know this, but if you make this training like this, then you always train 2 skills. The main skill, it is air war, because it's sweep and escort. If always the air is the number 1 skill, and secondary skill is the defense. This is normally the counter skill of this. So this is, I try to hit enemy airplane. This is try avoid to be hit. And experience is always the overall to everything what is not related to combat. Take off, landing, damage airplane landing, I think weather and everything else. But if I making escort, if I say I don't make only training, I make escort training with something else like this. If you do this, the pilot also will make training, but then he get only the primary skill. So in this case, only air will get increased in experience, but not more the defense. And this is also for the other skills. So if you split training and other duty, you only train the primary skill. But if you make the training only, you will train both. And I think general training make always split everything. But this is of course make no sense really. I see no benefit to make this. And if you learn, I think, sweep or escort, I am not sure if the game really separates this, because here I see no difference. So I don't know if there are still some sub skills you don't see. But I would say simply this is already some stuff what you cannot change. I really not care. Say it simple. So, and the other big training center is of course Mukden, and you can see I have here 264 training and 250 are used. And most of my, I think now all my air wings are full. You can see 42 full, 36 full, 42 again full. Also, I choose to have my training air wings not all at the maximum capacity, but also the same number of airframes as pilots. This simply will train the pilots faster to be ready for duty. You can also overstack this air wing with, I think, 25% more pilots or something like this, or even up to 50% more pilots. But you can always train only so many pilots you have airframes. The advantage is if you have more pilots that you have normally no problem with fatigue. And after a certain time you have more pilots ready. But the certain time is longer than if you do it like this. And at least at the beginning, I think it's better to try to fill up your pilot pool as soon as possible with some pilots. So 100 fighter pilots, 100 bomber pilots, and everything maybe 100 first. And if you have this 100 backup pool guys, then you can maybe say, okay, now I make this more slow training. But I keep it like this. It's also, of course, always a question of how much micromanagement you want to do. Of course, if I do this, I have to check more often the air wings and change the pilots. And so it's, yeah. I don't say it's wrong. I don't say it's better. It's only another way to play. So, and yeah, this is the transports. They're also training only transport, because the transport air wing can only use transport or general. So here maybe if the transport is at 70%, then you can maybe change it. But I would simply say if the pilots have a skill level of 70, I simply kick them out, put them to pool, and change. But also I would say I don't know if really it's necessary to have too many transport pilots. At least for the Japanese, I'm not really sure where you can use this. Americans, maybe they have much more transport airplanes. Maybe they can use this. Also, to transport cargo with the airplane is very inefficient. It's burned a lot of supplies to transport some supplies. Yeah. And I also have always my scouts on 22,000, my recon airplanes, always at 22,000 feet altitude. Maybe I can explain this later why 22,000. It's a special number. Okay. So, I think, and this is all. So, maybe only to show again the pilots. Here I have one elite pilot and the second guy with more experience. And normally what I will do is always, if the pilots are close to 70, don't must be 70 exactly, but like 66, 60, at least 66 something. So I wait maybe 1 more week or 2 more weeks. What I do is always activate reserve, block the first, then I always push this first, because if you push the skill, then you can see here down that it will separate the pilots by this skill. I can also push now here something else, but these are fighter pilots, so only air makes sense. But you can choose whatever you want. Oops. No, one more. Up is top, yeah. And then I block the first 2 pilots, reserve, and then I will release the pilots. And then I can release so many pilots I want, I think they are ready. So in this case, maybe I would say everything over 66 is okay. Like 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe I would say, okay, release the first top 5 pilots. Zack. They're out. They're back in the reserve. And then I can ask, give me 5 more pilots again. Then they're back here. Well, top here. And now I have here these 5 pilots because they are white, because they are just fresh, so they never had your training. Also, only to explain it again, a green number means already, or means that the pilot in the last turn had improvement of this skill. And orange means only had improvement of this skill in this last, or in this month. Because this is still December, the orange, so this pilot had at least at one day in this month an improvement of skill of 1. Can be the day before yesterday, can be the first day of the war, more or less. Good. I think this is enough for this first stuff. Other option, because I'm already here. Other option is if you want to have maybe how I do this with the fighting force. Let me check somewhere where I can find the fighter force here. Maybe here. Here, this is a typical, because this is an air wing with 14. I have 14 airframes to maintenance, but only 13 pilots. So I miss 1 pilot. I can check here the pilot list. What I can see here is that there is a pilot coming, but he is delayed by 2 days. So I would say not good from the game. That normally you can put here some icon or something that there is something incoming. Now I only see I have 13 pilots active, but I don't know that there is a pilot coming. I must first check this to see, there is something coming, so I must do something. Next day, if this changed to a 1, the O will also change to a 1, and then I can call in this pilot. But still, I would say, why I only can see it if it's 1 day away. I would normally want to have this, that there is some pilot incoming always. But anyway, if I say now I have here only 13 pilots and I need a pilot, what I do is, I can go now, request a veteran, then I go to reserve, and then normally you can see here, you can already split here if you want more down. You can say, I don't want the bombers, I don't want others, but I normally don't need to do this. The only thing what I do is, I separate by air skill, and then I can see, okay, then I check the pilot, okay, what is this guy? He's good in air. Okay, then I normally check, okay, this is what I want, and I only must make sure that he is not a pilot of other kind. Like, there is often torpedo bombers and dive bombers. A dive bomber must have good navy attack, and he only need good navy attack. But a torpedo bomber need also navy torpedo attack skills. So sometimes you must make sure that you not pick the wrong pilot. So, but here the first pilot is good in air, and nothing special else good. In strafing, it doesn't matter. This only makes sense for American pilots because you need armor. You can normally not strafe with Japanese airplanes. This is very risky. And defense is good. So I would say this guy I like. So I push the red mouse click, and then I say yes, come into my airplane or my air wing, and then I can see, okay, this guy is now coming. I go back, check the pilot, and then there's a second guy. 2 days. Okay. If I don't want him more, he's still in transit, so I cannot kick him now out, because he is already on the way, and if he's on the way, I cannot kick him out. But this is of course micromanagement. You must choose always a pilot by hand. I want bring out of the training group. I put them to reserve. Then I must check a air wing if there's missing pilots, and I must choose them again by hand. It is much easier if you use this give me a new pilot and then you simply say give me reserve or something like this or something like here. The problem is that sometimes this mess up stuff because the game itself only checks the primary skill and say okay, this guy sent to this air wing, but it can happen that you get the dive bomber pilot in a torpedo bomber air wing or something else. And I had this with the dojo game, and I simply learned if you want to have high efficiency and don't waste your resources, you better always go over request veteran. And this is the best way. For the Americans, maybe because you have unlimited pilots and everything is unlimited, you maybe not must do this. But with Japan, if you want really get the last 1% out of your game, you must do this. Good, this is only for the air wings. Let's talk about a little about the China situation. Was clear. Here in Thailand, there's not much happened. Because Jochen moved into this city, I get here some Vietnamese militia forces. Looks nice, but at the end they're useless because they're static. So I don't know really what I can do with them. The only static or the only really good force is here in Hanoi. He's also static, but this allows me to take my Japanese forces out of Hanoi and use it somewhere else. But all of these other additional forces they're consuming at the end supplies. But I don't think they will really help me. Thailand itself is inactive because I don't go for Rangoon now. My strategy is always Malaya, Singapore first. I don't rush for Rangoon. And everyone can choose this. I mean, I don't say my way is the only good way. So whatever you want to do it, try it. What I do in Bangkok is that I call in all the Thai forces and let them rest and train here. I give them replacement. Not that they really need replacement because these forces are not damaged. I mean, they are damaged but not broken. So I only need give them supplies, and every day I think I can get here one more rifle guy ready. So maybe in 1 month these forces are ready. Once the Thai forces are all ready, I will use them, I think, mainly only for garrison. In Rangoon, in Thailand, in Malaya, in Singapore, and everywhere where I can go. Because normally you cannot board the ship with them. You cannot, I think, use them for airplane. They can only walk, and they are restricted. I think they only can go to Rangoon, Thailand, Malaya, Singapore, and in China. But they are not good they are normally the same like Chinese police force. These are already the better forces. You can see they have experience of 35 and morale of 45 most of the time. Then you have this stuff. So I would really say Thai forces are the same level like Chinese forces, and I never use normally Chinese forces to fight active, only garrison. But why not? If a Thai force can do the garrison request and it free up a Japanese elite force or something at least nice, trained, then it's still good. Yeah, here's not much more. This is this Wurma rifle guys. I catch up and I try to kill them now. I built here a very small air force, only for fighters. Normally I won't bring this to a level 2, maximum level 4 I think, not more. I don't go over this nature level of the base level. It costs a lot of supplies. I think it's triple the cost of supplies if you go over this number. So up to 4 I pay the normal price. If I want to go 5, 6, 7 I pay much more. So I normally avoid this if it's not necessary. So, and I don't use my Thai forces for anything else. I really let them rest here, and this is all. And Bangkok itself, I only build up the port 4, airport 7, and this is enough. Only what is for me normal price I will build, but not more. And in Saigon is very similar. I have here a port of 6, and this is enough first, because 6 is already enough to rearm normally cruisers. And latest if I take Singapore, Saigon have normally not more a big meaning. I increase the shipyard to 20 because this will allow me to fix every heavy cruiser and additional stuff, but I also don't must go over 20. So I really try to save as many supplies I can and not waste anything. You can watch the XTRG game, I would say, and then you learn what happened if you waste your resources. And because with Japan, you have simply, if you don't have experience with this game, you don't have a feeling of your supplies. You really only see big numbers and saying, oh, these are so many supplies. I have no problem with supplies. But this is not true. Japan always have problems with supplies. There is no way around this. So, and I also, you can see here, wait, I close it. You can see here I have a very high numbers of, here's the requested numbers of aviation support is high. I barely catch it. This number, the first number, is always land-based aviation support. This plus 65 is always float plane support from float plane tender ships. Float plane tender ships can only maintenance, of course, float planes. So, and so I am here a little in the red, but not much. So, because I have here a lot of float planes, so the 65 are completely used for float planes, and then I still lack a little stuff. I have here 303 airplanes, and 55 are not ready. So in total 360 airplanes nearly. But you can see they're all training. They're making really training. I use my Nell bombers or Betty bombers to maybe normally make Sub Hunter, because if I get first in April Navy equipment to hunt submarines in deep water. But my bombers can already try now. Maybe in February I maybe have enough skilled pilots to do it. But I must train, and I need at least a level of 60. So I think I need here still 2 weeks to make this Sub Hunter Air Wing ready for duty. And then I can try to hunt down the submarines. Because these are long-range Navy bombers, I can really change the location from one day to the next day. Maybe I change the location, need 1 day rest to get the fatigue down, and then I can go for sub-hunting. So I can normally always put a lot of sub-hunter air forces in one air base. Try to get rid kill 1 or 2 submarines or damage them, and then I go to another base. At least this is the option. If I really do this, I will see. But I really learn also in the dojo game with Japan, you need Air Force for sub-hunting. Don't really try to use your Navy assets for this. It will barely work. Yeah. No. Well, the other stuff I do here, I have here a lot seaplanes or float planes, and they all have this group size of 24. This is why, because I have here my scout cruiser with a capacity of 24, and I use this guy all the time to reform all my air wings. I always make them so big as possible, and this is 24. There is nothing bigger. Then I can put a lot of pilots inside, and these pilots can first learn Navy search, because Navy search is some basic skill. Normally torpedo bombers need this. Land-based torpedo bombers need this. Float planes need this. And also float boats need this. So there are many, also recon airplanes, pilots can use this, because often you have many recon airplanes, but they can always use recon plus search. So Navy search is normally the the most useful skill a pilot can learn. It's a basic. It's never wrong to have it. It also will train the defense. So, but this is this is not a good, maybe I must show this one. Here you can see, the pilot get experience, the pilot get Navy search, the pilot get also defense. Once the pilot is ready, I kick them out, or I can normally also now, maybe with this pilot, I can still say, okay, after the guy learn Navy search, I can say, I can give him Navy attack. This, of course, will give him only the naval bombardment attack, not torpedo attack, because this airplane cannot carry torpedoes, so he cannot learn torpedo attacks. But every Navy bomber need also learn this skill, because you cannot say that you have always torpedoes. So I would always say also learn normal Navy bombardment with bombs. I don't know if you need sweep. Sweep is normally not so important. But even you can make here, even if this is a float plane, you can tell this air wing to make sweep. Then this pilot will learn like a fighter pilot, air and defense. So only because it is a float plane, it means not that it's only a float plane for float plane training. You must stop this strict thinking. Be flexible. At least with Japan, you must use every option you can to improve your combat values in the long run. And the one of the best is maximize your capacity. Put in your old, I always use only this outdated air wings, most of time. I have here also some of the jack, but normally the jack go always to cruisers, light cruisers, heavy cruisers, battleships. First, if all of my heavy units have jack float airplanes, after this moment, I will bring this kind of air wing or aircraft to training squadron. Okay, I talk a lot of this stuff, but normally have nothing to do with the situation, but I just want to start with it. And you can also see that from all of this stuff, I really use only Bangkok for airport, I use Saigon for airport, but also for Navy base, and normally nothing much else. Here in Malaya, I was able to cut here these forces, so you have here now 10,000 plus 17 units, and 22 units with around 50,000 guys maybe in Singapore. So 17 to 22 units. So maybe both forces are equally strong. But these forces are maybe out of supplies. I'm not sure, but maybe very low on supplies. The most important is for me they are out of the way. I can ignore them. I cannot ignore them if they cut here my road. But so long they don't come out, I can ignore them. I can take... In best case, Jochen will do nothing and he only try to hold the city, and then I let him hold the city and then he starved to death. Because if I kill them today or if I kill them in 5 months, it doesn't matter. There is no auto victory before the 1st of January 1943, so I must only kill them before this date. But if they want to stay here, they can stay there 11 months. And if I am tired of waiting and all my Thai forces are ready, then maybe I bring my Thai forces down and then I use my Thai forces to kill them. Because if they are starving, even my Thai forces can maybe do this. I'm waiting here, or this is still on the way, but they are not so important. This is my airport equipment. I just bring it from Singora. I close the airport of Singora before I use Singora. Now I bring all for Johor Bahru, but this is only Stepstone. This is the airfield of 4, original already, so I can use it. I don't must build here anything. And you can see I have a lot of airplanes here, but nearly no aviation support. But because I use now most of my airplanes for training will have very low maintenance cost. So even if you have nearly no maintenance here, if all your airplanes are on training, it's normally not a big issue. I have here now, here's my strike force Malaya, whatever. 2 armies are here, plus the overall headquarter of Southern Army. So 3,500 attack value. I don't expect here much resistance. I hope I can take Singapore, and I can hope only that the industry of Singapore is not damaged over 50%. If 50% gets damaged, I would say is okay, but I hope not more. The heavy industry is really important for me. Also, the shipyard is important. I need this heavy shipyard. I must maybe increase it later to a 64 for the Yamato battleships. But I will do this maybe really only at the end of the year, because the Yamatos enter first, I think, in December 42, the service. And I only must do this if I know I don't win the war in the first month of 43. If I win the war in the first month of 43, I don't must waste their resources. And 55,000 or 51,000 is enough to fix every battleship here. And if I have many battleships damaged, I can send them to Hong Kong. Hong Kong also have enough capacity to fix 1 battleship at least. And if I have many battleships damaged, then I must go to Japan. But simply again, with the Allies player, you can maybe everything build up to maximum. But with the Japanese, I really say I save what I can save for the days, because the bad days are coming. So not much more here to say. Everything is fine here. Waiting, preparing, unloading. Next turn I can maybe move. Oh, I think I need 2 days more. I think there was a unit. I don't know more where. Maybe I can already go next day. Oh, yeah. And then I go to Singapore, and then I will see. I also here catch up my last equipment from Kuantan. I bring it here to Mersing simply because you cannot go to this port. This port is linked to Singapore, so you must be owner of Singapore to enter this hex. Or at least if I want to here enter, then here's the minefield and the garrison of Singapore, so I cannot go to this port. But I can unload this stuff and then walk here simply in. It doesn't matter. It's only a question of time. So we had here this attack on my fleet returning to Georgetown. And one of this destroyer here had a 300 kilogram or 250 kilogram bomb hit. But really not important. Nothing really critical. So it was a bomb hit, but no real heavy damage. So I can fix it easily. No problem here. And this port was attacked also, and they killed 2 of my, because this was original 4 minesweepers, now only 2 left. Yeah. And this is my light cruiser formation. I will bring here now some air wing, because why not? I have them. And then I can protect Georgetown against any air attack. At least if it's not over 50 bombers coming. I have here some submarines in position. I also lay some mines here, because this is the direct text to the port of Rangoon. And this is shallow water, so only 5% of the mines will disappear per day. So maybe I'm lucky, I can maybe kill here 1 or 2 ships with my mines. And then I will bring my submarine in other position. But I have only little mines, so it's very unlikely to have here something happened. Here is this other cruiser formation. I find this cargo ship, but here is the destroyer I saw last time. So I hunt only 1 ship, but there's a second ship, so I maybe will kill this destroyer, and then I return to Georgetown, because I'm running also a little low on fuel. These destroyers are at 50% fuel only, so it's I cannot maintain here for too long. And I know this is basics. Here are torpedo bombers and other stuff in Colombo. And I have I know I have no detection. So Jochen don't know I am here, but we had here the fight. So he don't see me on the map, but he know I am here. So he will prepare some Navy bombers. Yeah, not much more to say here. I take Singapore, and after I take Singapore, I will make a decision. I will maybe bring the forces to Java directly. Maybe because these are two forces, maybe I bring one forces to west of Java and attack Batavia. Because if I take Batavia, I can close this gap. Maybe the smaller army I unload in Oosthaven and then I go to Palmbank. This is similar to the Dojo game. I also must normally take Surabaya because Surabaya is normally the shipyard and it's the second. I would say Surabaya is more important than Batavia, but at the end these are the two cities I need to take. All the rest is only nice to have. Surabaya and Batavia I must take. And I will see how I manage this. Here in the Philippines there is... I wing all my forces in position. I had this airstrike on Bataan. Now I know that there are 5 units, 10,000 guys. So this is a little much. But I still think here's a dot and something is moving, but this can be also a graphic problem. So this is why I make this air attack, but failed. And of course, because Jochen make here attack on my invasion fleet, but you can see everything is already unloaded, so it was empty. Because unloading is at the beginning of the turn, airstrikes is the next, and land attack is the last part of the turn. So I already unloaded everything. So I lost nothing. So this is a unit I was bringing here to support. And this is a force, was originally in Hanoi, and because I get this free garrison for Hanoi, I was able to bring this forces now to the Philippines. So Jochen give me this force more or less for free. Or they had normally garrison request and duty. And they have good experience. 60 is good. Not the best, but it's good. Many forces have only 45 or 50. And yeah. But I will now move on Clarkfield. And then in 2 days I arrive here, and we will see how fast I can take Clarkfield. And depending on the situation, how it play out, I maybe continue to clean up here the bases. I'm still not sure if I go first to Mindanao Island and take Mindanao before I go to Tarakan and Balikpapan, or if I say no, I go with force, with everything I have immediately to Java, simply to take Java first, because once I have Surabaya on Java, everything what is here is trapped. Surabaya is the only shipyard Jochen can use to repair anything meaningful. Everything else is only a port. So, yeah. At the same time, I must still pick up Amdon and Kendari. These are the two bases. Jochen can always bring in scout airplanes, and I want to get rid of them. So, if I have these 3 bases, it's much easier for me to operate Navy assets here. This was my carrier fleet. I lost a little track. I knew there was more forces here in the west. I maybe will go west and then go back to Singapore direction. The battleships, maybe I'm a little low on fuel, so I don't know. Normally I like to pick up these 2 ports, but maybe I also go back to Singapore. Because Singapore will normally these forces need 1 week to return to Singapore, and at that time I normally control already Singapore. I only don't know how good Singapore will looks like. Yeah, but I have only 2 options. My battleships must have a big port, so I can only go Singapore or Hong Kong to rearm. And then I think I better go Singapore, because from Singapore I can then go for Ceylon. And in Ceylon, there's always traffic. If I want to kill something, I can go to Perth or I can go to Ceylon. And I must kill more stuff. I'm a little behind in killing cargo shipping, maybe. I maybe kill enough military stuff, but not so much cargo. Yeah. And here we go back. And this is this tanker force. Like I said already last time, this tanker force will unluckily have an accident. Because I really forgot. I mean, I'm sure I sent escorts out, but something happened and then they don't arrive and I don't realize this. I never checked this task force more, that the escorts are joining this task force. And from this 70,000 I will lose now a lot. But okay. Only tankers. Good. Anything else here? I'm not so sure. Maybe I can show shortly here. Here is nothing more. I bring in stuff more to Rabaul. In Rabaul I have now my Navy headquarter. This will give Navy support. And again, only know it because it's hard to remember. Navy support will help a port to unload and load stuff. It's Navy support. Nothing more. It will help to rearm, I think. Help to unload and to load. Rearm I'm not even sure, but at least this. But all kind of Navy support, if the Navy support from a unit, you will see it here. So this is a Navy support here. So the Navy support plus support level will create here this rearm level. And yeah, I think there was also, no, I think only this. So here you can see something. But this is also something with, somewhere you can also calculate the loading and unloading stuff. At the end, Navy support always only simply more or less boosts the port. So the port is then not a level 3, it's like a level 5 or something like this. But only for the loading and unloading. It will not change the capacity, because the capacity is really only related to the port size. But if you wonder why, here you can see the Navy support, because here is Navy support. Navy support of this kind of units only working in true ports. And a true port is only a true port if this number is at least a 1. I don't know if I can show this. The classic is normally always Miri. You have here always a base force. But I was clever because I am clever. I mean, with Jojo I also don't realize this first. Now I cannot show you. I don't know if I have a port. Yeah. But okay, Miri is not a real port. Because Miri is a 0. And because if the base have a 0, it's not a true port. And in this case, Navy support will never work. You can put here 10,000 Navy support in this base. It will never work. Because it's not a true port. Brunei, on the next hex, is a true port. This is also why I was always thinking, oh, I must stop this. Yeah, I have no supplies here, so it doesn't matter. This must be from, I took the base, but I never switched off. Maybe Jochen did this. So normally Brunei has a much better port. It have also a big airfield, so normally I also was thinking, why you don't use Miri? The problem is only that there's no road connection between Brunei and Miri. And Brunei really only produce a little oil compared to Miri, what produce tons of oil. 300 refineries and 300 oil possible. And so far I know it is possible to transport supplies, fuel and anything from one base to the next base But if there's no rail, at least no road, then you will always lose something. So there can be a flow of supplies and stuff, but I think you lose like 5% of the stuff you're moving is lost. I think only if you're a rail you lose nothing, and if you have a road, I think it's less, something like this. I read about this. The problem is really that you can read a lot somewhere else, but you never know it's really true and how you want to calculate this. Some guys, they always try to calculate this, and I read about this and they say, yeah, you're losing equipment, you're losing supplies and oil and fuel and stuff if you transport this over non-rail hexes. And if you have a road, then I think it's less lost. So, okay. Back to Rabaul. Like I said, I have here some stuff. I have here also fighters too. But here I have fighters. Here I was prepared. Here I say fighter forces. I'm not more sure. Yeah. Normally I split them up, and then because this guy you can split because they are strong, big one, and then I make one normally for. This is the wrong hex. I'm back in melee. This makes no sense. I don't touch it. Now I'm here. This is Rabaul, and here is escort. 50% cap, 50% rest. It's make sure that normally no pilot is tired, everyone is fresh and eager, and everything is fine. So my carrier formation is here, but I will now start my carriers and I will bring them back to Rabaul normally. And only again I can show this how I will create my task force is. I say form a new task force. I say air combat. I say auto command, because this is for free. You don't pay for this. You always get an admiral for free. Then I will say okay. Oops, wrong. Then I say okay, give me my 4 carriers. Give me 2 heavy cruisers for support. And then I must check the anti-submarine stuff. Then I will say, okay, normally at least 6 destroyers. 1, 2, and 1, 2. Yeah, I have now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is normally enough. You can also go for 8 destroyers, but I think it will not have more as a big impact. 2 heavy cruisers is the minimum a carrier division need. I would never go less. If you use battleships, if you want to use battleships, you must use the Congo battleships because they must be at least the same speed. So this is why I use more the heavy cruisers. This is strong enough to battle everything what is a destroyer, light cruiser, or even maybe a heavy cruiser. At the end, the carrier task force never won't enter a battle. This is only emergency stuff. But I don't want to carry too heavy equipment for emergency reason with me. Yeah. So then I have this task force. Then I have my float planes are here. They're making Norway the Navy search, so I can let them train now because now I don't expect here anything. But later I will then say make Navy search. Then I say go full Navy search. You have 7,000. But I let them always only run in normal range. This will keep the fatigue low. In this combination, you can go for all pilots fly any direction they want, random. And you can do this many days before the fatigue will increase. If the fatigue reach 30, I will say, okay, 1 day rest maybe. But it's micromanagement. You can also increase the pilot pool numbers, but this is later. Now I fill up my pool and then I will fill up the air wings. So, and this I can do for everyone because I have only these 2 air wings. And the task force itself have now an admiral. Then I can check this admiral. Normally for a carrier task force, it's only important, or most, number 1 important is normally the air skill. This is now a free admiral, but this is a Navy guy, not an air wing guy. So I would say, no, I don't want this guy. Okay, in this case, okay, I say, okay, give me other guy. So I say, I pay now 11 points and replace him. Sometimes, this is I think random, you get a better guy. And if the guy is maybe already here 66 or so, then I would say, okay, then I don't must pay. But in this case, I say, I maybe take a better one. Once you disband this task force, this admiral will go back to the pool. So if you want keep this admiral, you will not disband the task force. You always transfer ships, and then you say kick out ships, everything, but keep one ship. If you keep one ship, there's still the admiral. Then you can do whatever you want with your ships, and once you are done, oops. It's changed automatically to other. Then I must maybe go to escort. Then I can go to transfer ship. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ha! Okay. It's not working like this. Because I always disband my task force, because I would say this little points are not worth this kind of many clicks. Maybe I can still bring. No. No, it's really not possible. For some reason, sometimes the game is limited. So then I had normally to keep the carrier inside and keep at least one carrier in the task force. Then I would not switch the mission type. Anyway, this is only so straight. If you want save this little points, this 11 political points, I would say this is crazy. Even I don't go so deep. So I think this is mainly enough for this. Yeah, maybe I can show you here again. This is my big hub here. I have here 2 of my carriers. One is in waiting position. I think the air wing was damaged, and I just finished the air wing replacement. And I don't want to bring this kind of light escort carrier out alone. I'm waiting normally for the light carrier Rio, but this needs still 7 days to fix this bombardment I had from this first engagement with the enemy light cruiser. So in total, this ship was for 3 weeks in maintenance, I think. Or yeah, I mean 2 weeks are already in maintenance, and 1 more week, and then the carrier is back operational. And you can see here also some other stuff is repairing. I will sooner or later, I think after I take Singapore and the 7 days are over, maybe in 7 days I will bunch up all of these damaged ships and I will transfer them to Singapore. And then they will support my India operations. And everything else I will maybe bring to Rabaul. Because for me, there's normally only the operation of Singapore and India Ocean. Later, I will split this in 2 groups, India Ocean, Singapore, and the second task force operate from Surabaya and Perth. And the other big task force is normally Rabaul and then all of east of Australia. And the central of Pacific, I would say it's only water. Who care water? I don't care. Let the American come if they want. Good. Enough of this, and let's check slowly for the industry. This I think I can show later with tracker. What I can show here is my engine output. More or less, I think today or the last day, I finished the 3rd factory, so I have now 3 factories running for the H60 each of this factory produce 1% R&D per day. Again, R&D is limited to 30. Every number over 30 in R&D is meaningless. But this is the R&D rule. So this 40, 80 and 30. Each of these factories producing 30 R&D percentage points per month, because this is the maximum a factory can produce. Or you can also say 1% per day. So next day I will have here 53%, then 56%, and so on and so on. Once the R&D is over, and again, if the 100% is reached, this number will drop by 1 month. So from October to September, then from September to August, and then from August to July. Once this happened, the R&D will change to production. And in production, you produce what is the number. Means 40 engines per month. Again, this number is monthly. 40 engines per month, 80 engines per month, and 30. So in total, we have here together 150 engines per month. And next level, once I have 500 engines in the stock, here I have now 65 in pool. If I have 500 of the type in pool, all airframes, this one, because this is based on this H60, you can see here H60. If I have 500 engines of the H60, a factory will produce double R&D. But R&D is first produced if nothing is more damaged. So these factories, they have still something is damaged, you can see here, and this is ready to operate. Because something is damaged, and even if only one factory is damaged, there's still no R&D production. I can hop over this and there's still 0, 0, 0, 0. Because none of these factories are still ready. I have here some factories with 9, 7 and so on. They have already, a third of the way is already done, you can say. This trigger, or the chance to change one damaged factory to a operational factory, is by luck or check. There's nothing you can really do. Some people say you must have 10,000 supplies, but or maybe let's say this: if you have 10,000 supplies, there's a higher chance that this is successful. With the dojo game, I don't have 10,000 supplies everywhere, but still I get this up. But because this is very risky, I would say, okay, I put in every base 10,000 supplies, and so if it gives me a bonus, nice to have. If not, I waste. It's not a waste. 10,000 is not too much. The only calculation you need is the more far away the historical date is, the more unlikely it is that this is possible. So because this is now here April 42, so only 4 months away, it's more likely that every day I can get one more up, one more up, one more up. So if there's a production chain, and the 0 is the biggest chain, I think, in all of this game, I choose the roof because this date is near, similar to the A6 M3. This is not much different. So this kind of air wings or airframes are easily to push up the R&D. Once the R&D is finished, I normally don't must boost this airframe. I normally will change it to the next best airframe and then try to boost this. Because this A6 M3 I will not use. The roof I will also normally not use for active duty, only for training. So, but this only works if there's a R&D's chain. So for the SAM, it's not working. For the SAM M3, it's also not working. For this torpedo bomber, it's also not really working. There's only one more additional. So most of the airplanes are single chain or double chain. So it's barely really useful. But okay, you can also see what I have here in R&D. This is all 0 stuff. 6 factories for 0. Because I must push the 0, I need the A6M5 as soon as possible. And later I will go maybe to the A6M5C. If I go to the A6M8, I'm not so sure. I think it's not a really big improvement more. It's depending how good the SAMs are coming. The SAM is simply much better than the A6M8. You can also see this is a carrier base, this is a land based. Then we have here this torpedo bombers. They are important but hard to get because they are end of 43. The Grace is simply the multi-rule attack fighter. Later you don't need this more. You don't need any dive bombers more. These are dive torpedo bombers. The Grace can do everything. So, but the Grace is even more complicated to get. So, yeah. The fighter or the Air Force, after the 0, I would say, the Judy is the most important Navy bomber you can need. Because this Navy bomber gets 500 kilogram bomb hit. And with 500 kilogram, you can kill everything. And you don't need 3, 4, 5 hits. You get only 1, 2, 3 hits. Yeah. And you can really kill and damage also carriers and heavy cruisers. And this is other stuff. You can discuss this if it's good or not good. I choose it. They have always a purpose. H8 is very important. This is the cargo edition. This is a night fighter. I think Wendy is also a night fighter, but this is a Navy night fighter. This is Army air fighter, night fighter. The Oscars are important. I would say simply because they are not good normally in dogfight, but they have long range, and they can make escort. They are not the best for sweeping, but for escort duty they are okay. At least they will keep enemy fighters busy. The Tojo is, I think, the better interceptor, so they are for defense operations good, but not for... They have not the range, so I don't know how to use the range. The Nick is a bomber killer, but nothing else. I will see if it really works. You can also use them for Navy attack stuff, because they have armor, and they have long range, but we will see. The Key 46-3 is the best recon plane for a long time for the Navy, this is Navy, I think. Oh? No, I think this is Army. Helen is the standard bomber. Early on you can get, but if you can change, I go to Peggy, because Peggy is much faster. And speed is really important. Yeah. These are other stuff. The Frank is the best army fighter, normally, I would say. You have also the 95 and the 83. They are super high-end stuff. The George is the best land-based Navy bomber, Navy fighter. But the Sam is also not bad. The George cannot operate from a carrier, and you can get them in the mid of 43. Here upstairs, this is also the A7M3 Sam is also only land-based. This is a much better fighter, but you can see 46. I don't know if you can get, maybe you can get this fighter at the beginning or end of 44, beginning of 45. And this one you can get maybe at the beginning of 43. Yeah, so, oops. And here you have other stuff. And I think Denko is the best night fighter for the army. I don't know more exactly, but yeah. So this is my A&D stuff. This is my engine stuff. You can see, I can show you the numbers. Because I play this game in historical A&D or realistic A&D, somehow they call it, I cannot change between A&D and production, and I can also not change between engine and airframe production. So what is A&D here is A&D and cannot change to production, and production cannot go to A&D, and engine keep engine. If I touch this, I can only choose other engines are ready for production. If I touch this, I can only choose engines are under development, but not under production. And for airframe the same. So this is some limitation. The biggest limitation I would say is I have many airframe production factories, but I have normally 2 less engine factories. If I can choose, I would normally change 3 or even 4 of this airframe production factories to engine factories, because what I really need is I need more H32, 33, 34. Normally I need 1 more factory for each kind. 35, 34, 33 and 32. Because the games also say 1 factory can increase the size only by 1 per day. Doesn't matter how big is the factory. I mean, I have here a factory of 205. Still I only increase each day 1 more engine. And this is 1 more engine per month, not per day. So engine per month. And the problem is now, I have only 2 factories of 35, can increase every day 1 more engine per month. Okay? On the other hand, I have 2 factories of 0 I can ramp up, but each of the 0 need also every day 1 35 engine. So if I increase the 0 output, I barely can catch up with my engine. But then I also have the Kate. The Kate Auto needs a 35. Then I have the Oscars. They also need a 35. And I have 3 Oscar factories. I have 1 Kate factory and 2 zeros. So every day I can increase here the airframe output of 6 per month, but only by 2 for the engine. This means, more or less, the pool of my engines will drop. And this I don't want normally. I won't normally come to the 500. This was the reason why for some days I stopped the production of the zeros. I cannot stop the production of the Kates, impossible. Kates are always in need. Val bombers are always in need. I also stopped now the Jack because I have first enough, but maybe for 1 month I stopped the production RSC. I also stopped the Nell bomber production. I stopped also the Betty production simply because I want to ramp up the engine pool. I have enough Nell bombers. I have enough Betty bombers. I don't like really the Betty. I will normally only produce a Nell. But the problem is I have no other airframe I really want to produce. Because everything what I produce will normally consume engines. I need more engines. So the only airframes are under production now are airframes using an engine what I don't need more. So the Key 46 needs a H31. I have 100 of these engines in pool. I consume the 100, so I produce 100 Key 46 more, and then it's over. I think I really don't need more than 100. These are recon airplanes. You will not lose so many of them. What I need is Oscars. So I produce Oscars. I ramp up the production of Oscars. The Ida I can also keep under production because it's used the engine I don't need more. The Nate is also under production because it needs the engine I don't need more. But I don't increase the production of this because this will be waste of supplies. if I change, I can do this because this is a safe game. If I say, I want not more Nate, I want now more zeros for whatever reason, this 35 factory will change to 24 and all are damaged. And to repair cost me 1000 supplies per day, and I only can repair 1 per day. So every change here must be, let's say, the player must think about this. You can mess up here so easy, everything. Watch the game of XTRG and you will maybe understand. Good. I think enough about this. The last thing I can show you is maybe the tracker software. I can close this. This is the tracker software. Be aware that I already loaded the next turn. So this is from turn 27. And here you can see that I lose 2 of my heavy tankers. Unluckily, both of the tankers only had 1 torpedo hit. But 1 torpedo hit was each time enough to sink my heavy tankers. And these are the biggest tanker Japan have. They have the highest hit points. But both of the torpedoes make a critical hit. So then it's simply too much. So I don't really want to show here this maybe so much. What I can show is I can maybe explain you first this cheat. You can see here the numbers. I mean, these numbers normally have no big impact, but you can see here my resources are 2 less. I have 2 less resources. I consume with my light and heavy industry more resources than I have. I have not enough crude oil. My refineries ask for more crude oil than I can produce. But my refineries can also not produce enough fuel to fuel or fill the demand of the heavy industry. So the Japanese industry is in all 3 positions in deficit. I have not enough resources, I don't have enough crude oil, I don't have enough fuel. So the situation for the Japanese industry is from the beginning already not very well. Yeah, you can have this report and then you can also see it here in the numbers. You can see this is the number of days before I running out of my pool points. And here you can see what is my or you can see it here. I have 7.15 million resources in backup, crude oil, fuel, supplies. The only thing what Japan never have a problem is manpower, and normally I think also never heavy industry points. I don't think this is possible to really run out of this too. In global, I can show this chart. So you can see it's a turn 1. Maybe I'll use this one. Need time. So I can we can check maybe one by one. You can see the heavy industry points going up. You only invest now with heavy industry points if you must I think reinforce or upgrade army units. Then you will use a lot of heavy industry points. So if your land forces suffer in the war with China, the British, Americans, then you will consume heavy industry. Heavily related to this is manpower. So you can put them together. You can see it's very similar. Then it's a question if you use tank forces, tank units, then you have more. No, this is armament. This is for infantry, and this is for tanks. In this game, I increase my output of tanks, I think by 50%, because in the dojo game I always have the issue that I always dropping to 0. In this game, I keep up, and now I even can create some pool points. Not bad. And this is the shipyard. I would say you don't need to have pool points over 1000, but also don't come under 500. So have a little pool points left for the shipyards to produce military equipment and civilian equipment, and then you're fine. But I don't need 10,000 pool points. This will not help me anything. Good. This is production and this is the resources. Then you can see that the resources are dropping. The fuel is dropping slowly. The crude oil also goes slowly down, but I think these three are acceptable slowly down. But you can see the amount of supplies I'm burning is alarming. I start with roughly 3.4 and now I'm back at 1.8. You can see this also here. I start with 3.4 million supplies overall. Now I'm at 1.9. This is heavily related to my change of industry investment. In the dojo game, I choose more or less the 10 biggest city I have, and I tell them upgrade 100 heavy industry, and done. So the first 100 days, each of the space will get one more heavy industry. In this game, I say no. I go to every base have heavy industry and I give it 10. And then I give it 10 again. And then 10 again. And now it's over. So I more or less maybe pay the same amount of supplies to upgrade my heavy industry. But I don't do it in 3 months, I do it in 1 month. The benefit is all this new heavy industry will produce already after the end of the second month latest supplies for me. And in the dojo game, first after 100 days, I am at my maximum output. So I will get faster my supplies back I invested before. This is the idea. If it's good or bad, we will see. But I say, let's say this. To have 3.5 million supplies in my bank account, I don't get interest rate for this. I must invest my supplies. So I invest heavily in my supplies. I also, like 50% of my investment go in heavy industry and the other 50% go in engine and airframe. Because also I ramp up my engine non-stop. You saw the factories. Every factory get every day one more output. And this cost me always 1,000 supplies. And you can make a calculation here now that we can roughly say we are now at turn 27. I think, but you must always deduct one because the first day is not counting. Let's say 25 days. And then you can see I burning through but half of my supplies nearly. Good. The rest is normally not so critical. I burning fuel and the rest, but this is acceptable. And later I take Bali Papan and Tarakan and Miri, and then normally I capture fuel, I capture resources. This is not a big issue. The only thing what I really have a problem is supplies. So this is also why I think I will make maybe 1 more week, maximum 10 more heavy industry, and then I will stop the heavy industry. After this, I will only repair heavy industry, but I will not create new heavy industry more. I will only upgrade and push engines and airframes, but not more heavy industry. I will also switch, because up to now I not really did this, I must repair oil and refineries, because I'm lacking oil and refineries. But step by step. Good. Maybe what else I can show? Maybe victory points. You can see I start with 1,400 to 11,000 roughly. Here's a ratio, and you can see here the ratio was against me only twice, only at this day and this day there was something against me. And this is normally, you can check if it's really me losing stuff or if Jochen gets something. And you can see here, here I am losing victory points, but I'm not more sure why. But somehow I lost victory points. Jochen not get victory points. What happened at day 5? I lost some cargo ships? I don't know more. I cannot imagine that I lost so many victory points. Maybe you can watch it here. Air losses? It's only... so... Yeah, okay. It can be that I get the victory points from a day before, then the game realize, oh, no, you never kill this, and then they deduct the victory points. This is, I think, also possible. So, it's not, I don't must lose it active with my units. It can happen that only the score points I get before was requested to give back, more or less. So, but you can see here on. So, every day it was successful for me. Only at 2 days I had a real lose. Yeah. But I need 4 to 1. And I'm still only 1.6 to 1. So, I must turn it around. So, I'm still not able to turn it around. But once I take Singapore, I think I can turn it around. Then you can see here also the other numbers. And here are more information. If you want to really check it, you can do it. Okay. And then you can do this with air losses, the total over the war, ships sunk by nation, allies or Japanese, by date or victory points. I mean, we can do this by victory points. So this is, of course, this can be fog of war. This is what the game tell me I sunk up to now with tonnage together. So I can see the 2 battleships, the 2 British battleships, and the Boise, Houston, and other stuff. Of this military equipment, I would say, yeah, they all sunk. I mean, I would say most of the stuff is really dead. But you can never be sure. But I think after 3 months, I think latest after 90 days, the ship is sunk, but not official first, but latest after 90 days, I think you get a confirmation of that the ship is dead. But also means every ship shows me sunk here, and if it's not really sunk in front of me, so I only believe it's sunk, but I never saw it, it can still drop out of this list up to 90 days. But if it's not drop out of the list in the first 90 days, then it cannot jump more out, because then it's for sure dead. And then you have this charge, the victory points. You can see we're coming closer. Ship sunk. Here, this is the Japanese sunk ships. This was really, and this is, I think, based on, the green one. This is the victory point. So these 2 tankers, I only lost 2 shitty tankers, but they have so many victory points. You can see here how the victory points come up. Crazy. Yeah, can happen. And air losses are the same. And air losses is, there's only one rule. Keep the blue allied line over the red on your always, if possible, and then you are fine. If something happened like this, that you have higher air losses, like the first day I would maybe accept this, but not later on. But so long allies losing more than Japanese, I'd say it's okay. If it's 1-to-1, I would say it's barely acceptable. But if the Japanese Air Force suffer more than the Allies, then you are losing the war. Good. So I think I stop here now. I thank you all. See you next time, and I will do this kind of stuff again for the next month. Take care. Bye bye.